Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation because the prophet invariably falls between two stools. If his predictions sound at all reasonable, the progress of science and technology has made him seem ridiculously conservative. On the other hand, if by some miracle a prophet could describe the future exactly as it was going to take place, his predictions would sound so absurd, so far-fetched, that everybody would laugh him to scorn. And that is why the future is so endlessly fascinating, because try as we can, we'll never outguess it.
Deltarune is currently an ongoing game. 2 chapters have been released so far out of the full 7. It's because it's an ongoing game that's still in development, fans have begun to speculate and make fan content around what might be next in the game's future, with the aim of predicting what wacky cartoon madness and insane story beats Toby Fox will up his sleeve. Now almost 2 years on from the last chapter release, loads of people have made many different AUs. And yes, I know the connotations that saying the word AU brings when talking about a game heavily connected to Undertale. You're just going to have to trust me when I say that for the most part, Deltarune fanworks are more sane. In fact, I've fallen in love with Chapter 3 to 5 predictions in particular, because it allows for so much creativity and cool ideas and designs. So with this video, I want to share some really cool people making some really cool art. But before we go further, I need to explain what content I'm actually ranking. I'm calling prediction AUs any fan work that aims to create future Deltarune chapters. This can be any fan work from a drawing to a fan game. For example, Deltarune chapter rewritten isn't a prediction AU. It's a swap AU that retells Deltarune chapter 1 and 2, so it's not on this list. However, one of the people behind chapter rewritten, the Joker, does have a chapter 3 to 5 AU, a completely different project. It has music and visuals for the main and secret bosses of Deltarune chapter 3, 4 and 5. This is classed as AU, because it isn't official Deltarune content. However, this is also a prediction. These are unique concepts for a hypothetical future Deltarune chapter. So because I'm dealing with fan concepts, this video itself isn't a prediction video. I am not adding anything new to the theory discussion here, but I am also not critiquing how accurate these fanworks are as actual Deltarune predictions, because this is each individual creator's own interpretation. You don't think a telephone will be the chapter 3 secret boss? Well, I'll tell you a little secret. I don't either. But I'm not ranking these based on how likely they are. This is my own personal ranking and opinion as someone who enjoys consuming these AUs. Creativity and people making cool things will always be prioritised over making it a flawless prediction with every box checked. Also, this video is being released before the real game, and I doubt many of these works will stand alone once the full game comes out. And yes, I will obviously credit all creators shown in this video. A full list of all predictions are in the description down below. Now let's get some AUs, starting with some quick fire honourable mentions. See It's Cool Deltarune Friday Night Funkin' mod, Smile Award, a song from the original Chapter 3 secret boss concept, Vesperus. The character is fully voice acted and is really cool. Deltarune Ozymandias is a very fun take. One of the more popular Deltarune theories is called chess theory, the idea that each Deltarune main boss will parallel a chess piece. So instead of Mike, we have Rook, who is basically if Lancer was in Breaking Bad. The characters made by Neo Bandit also deserve a quick mention for being a pre-Spamters Week 6 prediction that has Mike and the TV, called host, as 2 separate characters. I really enjoy the relationship between these 2. And finally, Kuromi's Deltarune chapter 3 to 5. It was an AU that was unfortunately deleted by its creator. However, we have been able to save most of it. It's the biggest prediction from the Deltarune subreddit, and one of the earliest AUs to have Asgore's flowers thrown in the kitchen trash can as a secret boss. Okay, so here we go with the list. Number 10. Number 10. Mr. Luigi's mic. This is the original mic that started them all. All it took was titling a new project Deltarune Leak during release of new Deltarune content, and you blow up like crazy. Don't worry, they won't be the last to do that. So yes, this guy created Mike, the purple TV head, and half of all fanworks are spin-offs of this. So who exactly is Mike? Well, in chapter 1, if you defeat Jello violently, he exclaims that soon the cream will return. For some theorists, this is setting the precedent that each chapter's main boss will be mentioned by the secret boss of the previous chapter. And who does Spamton reference if you beat him violently? Are you getting all this, Mike? Mike. A mysterious character who Spamton mentions multiple times in his dialogues. Mike is implied to be a character who helped Spamton and then left him. So although it's likely to be a reference to Big Shot Soda, a 1997 commercial starring Mike Ditka, that clearly didn't stop fans from making an original character, with this, quote, leak, being the first prediction that made the fandom Mike design blow up. And now, over a year later, we have some banging music, and a full game show scene where Mike is actually a character. It's funny that despite the fandom making Mike a deadly host who will play games with your life, the actual Mike doesn't have that in him. He's actually quite chill. It's not a battle, it's a harmless quiz show. This Mike's actually a fun personality in his own right, and I hope he gets more videos. Number 9. What If Noelle Lost Her Way by Sprite and Mike. This prediction is completely different to everything else here. It isn't a big bombastic battle against a secret boss, or even a villain, or even a dark world. It's late game animation for a chapter 5 prediction that deals with the consequences of Rudy's death. An event that has a high likelihood of happening in Deltarune. This animation creates an entire sequence for the game, from characters reacting to news, to Noelle going missing, and Susie and Chris sneaking out to go find her. It is incredibly well animated by a talented sprite artist, who not only capture the game aesthetic perfectly, but also capture the characters perfectly as well. Susie's lines feel like they were ripped right out of the game, and overall the dialogue feels very faithful. This thing just oozes with charm and is a must watch. I highly recommend it. Number 8. Funtown by Kate Bulker. Well, this is some extreme tonal whiplash. This AU is made as a fan game in the Deltarune fan game engine. Although this is version 1, so it will be revised, it might become a fan game in the future. Lumia is very bombastic. They have a chaotic energy, and that's coupled with some very hard attacks in a well thought out and creative Green Soul boss fight, such as bouncing energy bolts off reels of film. One issue that I think a lot of fandom secret bosses have is the Spamton effect, in that they end up being very similar to Spamton. However, I think this character does enough to stand out because they have completely different themes. This one is playing on the theme of abandonment, as Lumina, family camera, is trying to enact revenge on Chris for abandoning them. Lumia isn't perfect, however English is not the creator's original language, so in that regard I think she's done great. I can't wait to see what this creator does next, because she also has a chapter 5 concept, with both Des and another secret boss, taking the approach of skipping chapter 4. Instead, chapter 4 will be a day purely dedicated to the quests being established for Hometown, like Pyrus or Metaton, etc. Number 7. Mike's Big Showdown by Sadbread. Mike's Big Showdown is unapologetically fangamey, for lack of a better word. It was truly born out of when prediction culture was throwing anything against the wall and hoping it would stick. In this case, it was having a main boss also be the secret boss. This was the first fan game by the developer Sadbread. He recently reviewed his own body of work on his own YouTube channel, so I don't want to completely steal what he said about the fan game, but I will say that my criticisms align with his own. For positives, in my opinion, this is by far the best prediction for a soul mechanic. The blue soul from Undertale returns here, and it can do a ground pound on enemies, also doubling as a dash. This is fun to use, is incorporated well, and makes me hopeful for the future buffs that Toby will give the Undertale soul modes in the future. The creator's main criticism of his game, and for me, this is why it's not very high on this list, is because Mike is just second Spamton. He is very referential, and tied to what the fandom might think about Mike if you throw 50 R-slash Deltarune users in a room. Not what would make a good character. That's definitely something that Sadbread improved on in later fan games. But for me, it was still a challenging game, I enjoyed it, Mike was still fun, and this deserves a spot on the list. Number 6.
Oh Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the colors in between, it's your wonderful host with the most, Mike! Coming to you live from Homestead, brought to you by the Night. Warning, interaction with the Night can lead to various health hazards. Make sure you contact your doctor before delving into the dark world. And today's show will knock you dead.
Deltarune Chapter Gamma by Modcho64. Chapter Gamma was one of the first Mark designs, but wasn't the precedent set by the first AU on this list. Created by the YouTuber Modcho64, this AU is mostly focused on having Mike as his own unique character, who would look better stood next to King and Queen instead of Spanton. He's a malicious producer who wants to take Toriel as his co-star, despite Chris's wishes. This AU also has an entire side catalogue of random mini-bosses that make up Mike's TV crew. But my favourite character of the bunch is the secret boss, Radiola. Purely based on the concept alone, playing on the idea of video killed the radio star, Radiola is the former disc jockey of Rook Radio, before TV took her off the airwaves. She's very stereotypically 1950s, with a bunch of cool cat slang that's just the bee's knees. And the visual way her secret boss theme is great. Overall, this one is very unique, and in general you can tell a lot of passion was put into it. The creator is currently doing a character Q&A that I'm very excited for because I would love to see more of these characters. Number 5. Deltarune the Metropolis, made by Hugh Cycles and List Speed. This AU is a planned video series that focuses on an alternate take for Chapter 3. Set in a massive cyberpunk city, the Metropolis, this AU has many different characters. One of the mains is Nick L. Odeon, a little Willy Wonka style character. His role in the story is more of a Lancer style supporting role, whilst Mike is the main boss. And honestly, I think that's amazing. I think more AUs should have supporting casts. Each Deltarune chapter won't just have a main boss and a secret boss. They will have multiple new antagonists across the entire chapter. And I like when AUs recognise that. Also, Nick is just a fun design. I like him, and he somehow becomes the Spanton Neo equivalent boss on each chapter's Snowgrave Route equivalent. But speaking of this chapter's actual secret boss, Halo Jack has a really cool aesthetic. A video hijacker who can take control of the airwaves, and is basically a little trickster on the run. Overall, this AU is more about the character designs for me than the actual story, and I think the original characters that it has are done really well. Number 4. Deltarune the Garden by Marine Flames. This is by far the AU that's gone the furthest with just its secret boss. And this isn't a bad thing. Many people have secret boss original characters, but in my eyes, Solace truly is something else. A fully fleshed out character that feels like they belong in Deltarune and works great as both the AU and a prediction. Solace was the sundial in Asgore's flower shop, a dancer who was gifted the shadow crystal during one of his performances. After being broken by knowledge, he ran away from his home, and he is now plotting to use Chris's soul to access the save point in order to rewind time and go back to before they were tainted by this knowledge. This is a very cunning and powerful, yet tragic character, with great crystal and space imagery. Marine Flames has hooked me in perfectly with a fully realised character, and I can't wait for him to seemingly get his own fan game in the future, assuming all goes well. That's not to say the chapter is completely void of content. It's set during an event called The Roaring's Final Warning, that sends earthquakes across the Dark World and turns random darkness to stone. But obviously Solace is the main draw here, and Solace was knocked out of the park. Once again, all I use linked in the description, and I heavily suggest watching Solace's introduction. Number 3. Wandering Makers. The Wandering Makers team have an interesting take, because this AU went with a very unique design for its mic, Cat Mic. This AU was created before the Spamton sweepstakes, and it uses two pieces of evidence in order to infer that Mike could potentially be a cat. Number 1. The Friend Smile in Queen's Mansion. This mysterious smile is, well, a mystery, but some have connected this mysterious graphic to the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. And 2. Before the Spamton sweepstakes confirmed the existence of elemental pairs, fans had no explanation for why Spamton had cat elemental attacks. So Cat Might was the solution, combining the two cat-related things we knew about Spamton at the time into one character. And I love both designs, the old one and the new one, and well, their cat-like personality, obviously. But that's not all. These creators also have the Immortal Hydrangeas, the poster child for the very popular fan theory that the Chapter 3 secret boss will be the flowers in Toriel's trash can. Obviously, because of this, they have flowery parallels, and they play with themes of rejection and abandonment. Overall, this is a really cool team of people who make some really cool fan content. Everything this team does is solid, and since they're currently moving on to Deltarune Chapter 4, I'm really excited to see how they tackle that. Number 2. Vision Crew Chapter 3-5 by RV Pine. Mainly based on SoundCloud and Tumblr, this fan project was launched as a Deltarune leak under the name Uzi Inu on SoundCloud, the former Toby Fox alias. This was done immediately after the Spamton sweepstakes, and all it took was titling a new project, Deltarune Leak, during release of new Deltarune content, and you blow up like crazy. The creator swapped accounts and became RV Pine, the creator of Vision Crew, as they create a Deltarune Chapter 3 fan game. The SoundCloud is the main draw here, and musically I love his melodies. Banger after banger after banger. He really captures Toby's style of music, whilst also feeling unique. I don't know music theory at all, as some of you might know by now, but I think it's the use of leitmotifs in smart ways that makes this music stand out for me. Instead of copy and pasting Toby's motifs, Pine created entirely new motifs using the songs from the Spamton sweepstakes. But whatever is in Pine's songs, it's clearly working. Screenburn has a great timed running out energy, as the fun gang race to stop Tenor from using Asgore. Whereas Technicolor feels like the best part of the current Deltarune area themes mashed together to create an amazing vibe. Pine has a Tumblr page to share progress and tidbits. I'm very thankful for that because he's basically shared the story behind all of his characters in his blog, so I don't have to wait for the fan game. For starters, Tenor himself, cocky, sly and ruthless. Tenor is a very love to hate type of guy. The main thing with this AU that I was shaky on was Camilla. Originally, this AU was lower just because I didn't connect with her. She felt like Spamton 2 but with VHS horror. And you can tell RV Pine also didn't like her. So thankfully, she got a complete rework. She is now an ex-children's show host who got gifted the Secret Boss knowledge live during her Sesame Street style show, and she was axed in Tenor's takeover. Because of this backstory, Mike is introduced, but as a Camilla secondary character, and this is probably my favourite fandom interpretation of Mike by far. He's not the main boss, nor a secret boss. Instead, he's a supporting character for Camilla. Mike gets more main story involvement in Chapter 4, a chapter without a dark world, as Pine was the early advocate for that theory. I can't wait for this team's fan game of Deltarune Chapter 3. But don't count out the Chapter 4 and 5 content, because while the fan game is only Chapter 3, the music for Chapter 4 onwards is still going up on the SoundCloud, including the Chapter 5 secret boss, Hishrik. It's basically a demon that crawls around as a loose cannon. It doesn't even speak until it gets its heavenly form for a secret boss fight. And its lore, which is wild, is an explanation for why Chapter 5 actually has 2 secret bosses in this take. Gaster was going to give the Mantle Keeper, the chapter's intended secret boss, a crystal. But Hishrik mauled Gaster, stole a shard of his shadow crystal, and gave him the crack on his eye. And that's so stupid and cool at the same time, I love it. Long story short, Pine and their team are extremely talented, and I can't wait for this fan game. The fact that the Deltarune community is getting something this high quality from a bunch of dedicated fans is insane. Although, it's not my number one.
Incident? I'm afraid I don't know what you're asking about. You know something, don't you? I can tell because of that mantle you're wearing. Fine. I will tell you what happens when angels fall down.
Number 1 is Deltarune Reimagined by Zet. This may be a controversial pick, because this AU is nothing like Toby's style. But this guy's Deltarune content has been my secret guilty pleasure for a while now, and after much debate, I think the wild ideas and insanely unique lore that this AU goes for has edged it ahead of some stuff that's more faithful to the actual game. The key thing here is this isn't trying to be Toby, at all. This is a reimagining of the plot of the game by a completely different person, and that is by far Zet's biggest strength. He's realised that as long as he isn't contradicting canon in any major ways, he can do whatever he wants, and create some insane lore. And create insane lore he did. He's created so much lore it's actually insane. Whilst writing this, he dropped a full, multiple page PDF of the elements and elemental pairs in his AU, and it's only volume 1. This is an insane lore mountain. As he puts it, everything he's done past his chapter 3 has multiple Chekhov's guns for later events, and it's all a big web that can theoretically be uncovered, ARG style, by what he's posted in the YouTube community tab. Before I go further, I want to say I love the idea of knowledge and power scaling for the secret bosses. I like the idea that each secret boss will be stronger and have more knowledge and more attempts to break free. That's a cool way to incorporate lore and storytelling into the game's difficulty curve. Zet's AU perfectly scratched this itch of mine, as he gives a power ranking for his secret bosses. Everyone's power and knowledge is ranked by Gaster and Des, the entities outside of reality. They go from E-level NPCs, to Javelin S, and Hell, the Chapter 4 boss, at SSS. Determination is based on willpower, and beings who go above determination levels that lightning should normally have, achieve trans-duality, and basically become a god. So for Chapter 3, we have Phone, and she's fine. I love her story though. She basically had Spamton's fall, but instead of giving up, she keeps trying to break free again and again and again until she accepts futility. But I'm not really a fan of her design. I don't like the idea of a phone secret boss after Spamton's phone motif was so prominent. It feels like doubling up. And it appears that Zet agrees with me, since Chapter 3 will get an overhaul in the future. But with Chapter 4 we have Hell, and this chapter by far has the most content. Father Alvin makes this dark fountain with Gerson's hammer. The handle of the hammer becomes the staff of Alvin, as he becomes the Illuminated Knight, a secondary knight under the control of the Chapter 4 main villain, and by the way his battle theme goes hard for no reason, I love it. Meanwhile, the head of the hammer became a massive behemoth that destroyed the main area that's been destroying the Dark World in her grief. She's basically a big angel robot who understands Chris's perils, and wants to be given kindness herself. I like her, and the entire Faith world. It's one of my favourite takes on a Dark World that I've seen. And now we get to Akazio, who is by far my favourite secret boss fan character, in general. First of all, such a cool design, cool powers, cool everything. He's literally using his powers over time and darkness itself in his fight, as he battles in the space between Dark Worlds. He used to be an NPC, a character programmed to read out the time and make a joke about it, but after Gaster blasted him with knowledge, he was able to give himself a new body and hack into a form of code. Now in hiding from the Chapter 5 main boss, inside his own time loop planet, he organises a boss rush gauntlet stage so he can drain our HP. He then uses that HP to achieve trans-duality. His boss fight is him trying to take our soul so he can take full power over time. Oh yeah, I got a bit carried away, but I love Akazio, and I admire the insane amount of lore Zet has created to expand the Deltarune mythos in a very creative way. Zet has created his own cosmology. Once again, it's worth saying that it's not realistic to what Toby will do with the game, at all. But that's what makes fanworks in general so fun in my opinion. All I want is for them to keep the spirit of the game and keep the pre-existing characters intact. If they do that, they should have free reign to do whatever. The future of this game is truly unpredictable. Every single person has a different perspective. Thank you for watching.